Thank you so much, everybody, for your patience. This is Murph, and I am live with the one and only Jacob Collins. And Collins, we're experiencing a little bit of a iRacing kerfuffle here. It sprung an update on me within about 30 minutes of going live. So what we've decided to do for the fans, Collins can see the action. I, as yet, cannot, although we are working on that as quickly as Intel will allow us to do it. But Collins is able to see the action, and he's going to describe what's happening. Jacob, what are they doing down there in Pocono, or at virtual Pocono right now?
Well, we're seeing a couple cars swap drafting at the front here and about a single file train, about everyone third on back. It looks like Russell and Akabuezi are at the front working together, trying to maybe pull away slowly from the field. Very hard to do, though, as a lot of these cars, I'm sure, are very much prone to sucking right back up, as we see Jacob Oster looked at the inside of Jason Brophy ahead of him. We've got quite the strung out field at this point. Front to top to bottom, it's about a 7-second gap from Russell at the front and Jason E. Collins at the tail end of this 24-car field. So we're playing nice this first couple laps here. We're on lap 7 here, so I'm sure as the race kind of wears in, we'll see a bit more people try to march their way towards the front. We've got, Malechka, Keela, Glenworth, and, a couple others towards the back of the field that either didn't post times or didn't get the time that they maybe wanted and are kind of working their way through the field as we've got Hollabaugh up 6 spots already. There's a couple other guys kind of charging their way through forward on the field here, and we'll just have to see how this kind of shakes out over the course of the rest of the race here as we get on to lap 8.
That's a good point, that's a good point, Jacob. I did want to ask, is this a situation where you're looking at kind of a fuel-saving deal, where you might have some guys trying to speed out and build a lead, and they're banking on the thing going green, maybe an extra pit stop, and just try to outpace everybody? Or is it a situation where guys are just taking it easy, you think?
I think they're taking it easy. I think everybody's kind of cognizant of that they're not going to be able to pull away from each other, especially given even with the multi-car swap at the front. It seems that the third car kind of just pull them back as soon as that swap's completed, coming into the subsequent corner, especially coming through turn 2. So it definitely just seems that everybody's kind of just biding their time, making some swaps, seeing where their car can run in clean and dirty air as they kind of work their way through the opening couple laps here. I'll imagine that this is mostly just kind of a bide your time sort of race, because you're not going to be able to strictly, pull away on pace. Everybody's kind of got their car dialed in to where you can't quite just pull away from people without some sort of drastic checkup, which we haven't quite gotten at this point. So we'll just have to see where we go from there.
Interesting.
As we see a couple cars close in on the front here as Brito looks to the outside, or actually we've got Alexander looking to the inside of Brito coming into turn 1.
Now, one of the things I did want to point out, we mentioned the name Alexander Russell. That is a big one. Alexander Russell is a holder of a World Championship Pro Oval license. That is something that is very difficult to get, and he has one, and so would look to him to be one of the early favorites. Meanwhile, there is pretty much every big-time oval driver that you would think of in the automobile here this evening, with a couple of notable absences. And so this is a really, really, really super strong field. Do want to thank everybody for your patience. The sim has finished its update. I am just about ready for live pictures here at Pocono, and so thank you so very much for your patience. As soon as I get loaded into the session, we will absolutely go live. What's the running order look like now, Collins?
Well, we've got Brophy at the front now with Russell in second and Akabuezi in third. Actually, that might have changed since the start of the lap here. So then we've got Brito and Alexander behind that group of 3. And then Jacob Oster 6th, Rashad Craig 7th, Simpson 8th, Kevin Hayes in 9th, and Aurelio Brazil rounding out your top 10.
Very good. I am looking at getting the session opened now. Jacob, do want to just ask, what kind of racing are you anticipating here this evening?
Well, this is kind of a bit different than what we've seen so far with this slightly updated, refreshed car. We haven't had a full-on, 2.5 mile speedway in a more traditional weather pattern. As we look to the track temp of around 106, it's a little low, so it's not quite low enough to get this place to pack up, as we've seen in a number of instances in the past in these cars. But it's not a full-on scorcher where we're getting nervous about the tires maybe being a bit more melty as you work your way through these corners.
Okay.
So we'll just have to see how that kind of develops as more cars maybe start to push, get an idea of just how much pushing there is to do or how much you can really gain. And if we see cars start to bunch up a lot, that's kind of the indication to me that we're going to probably see maybe an Indy Racing League style pack race come to the end of it, but we'll just have to see.
Very good. We are moments away from being able to go live, and I do want to thank everybody in the audience for your patience with us here at the P1 Broadcasting channel. We had a situation where iRacing threw an update at me less than 30 minutes before we were set to begin, and because of that, and because of the amount of content that I have, it took a really long time. So I appreciate everybody. I am in the session now. Jason Brophy is your leader. Hamilton Akabuezi is second. Alexander Russell has dropped to third. We've got Alan Berteau fourth. Seb Alexander fifth. Then Jacob Oster, Rashad Craig, Chad Simpson, Marco Brazil, and Logan Edwards will round out your top 10. In 11th, Kevin Hayes. Matt Hollybaugh is 12th. Robin Glakis is 13th. Chris Nenow is 14th. Olivia Hayward is 15th. Oh, hey. In the field tonight, Robert Malechka is 16th. Clintworth, 17th. Tykela, 18th. Will Stearns is 19th. And Guillermo Miguel rounds out your top 20. Blaze Andrich, Ellis Spice, Jason Collins, and Tyler Dobrush round out the field.
And we are starting to see a slight breakaway of about the first 6 or 7 cars across the field. You can maybe throw in Simpson and Edwards into that mix, but everybody else is about 2 seconds back of the leader at that point. So that starts getting further and further away of the draft window of even the cars in front of them. As you know, we have kind of those 2 separate groups forming. We've got like the front 3/4 of a dozen, and then the back half of the rest of the field. So we'll have to see just how much this front group can break away, maybe try to make something on pit strategy happen here. Come the end of their fuel run here and where they cycle back out.
I do want to thank everybody for their patience. Ladies and gentlemen, we have live pictures from Pocono with Murph and Collins. Thank you so much, everybody, for your patience listening to us discuss and describe the action. We have live pictures from Pocono. Jason Brophy is your leader, as we said before, and he and Hamilton have opened up just about a 0.3 of a second gap between Seb Alexander and Alexander Russell. Alan Berteau runs an interested fifth. We have caution on the speedway. It's Will Stearns. And there's Will. His number 20 machine has come to grief there on the back, and let's see what's befallen Will here. He's going down the Long Pond straightaway, coming off of turn number 1, headed down to the tunnel turn. There are, well, that doesn't work, Collins. They're 3 wide headed for turn 2.
Yeah, that's one of those that kind of narrows up when you get to it, and it's really hard to kind of make 3 cars come down to 2 lanes as you work your way through that corner, and somebody has to end up in the unfortunate position.
It does. That's Guillermo McGill on the bottom. Will Stearns takes the ride up toward the top of the speedway, and there is a third car there that appears to be, is that Blaze Andrich has also been involved. And there's Blaze. He was just kind of unfortunate, nowhere to go there. So unfortunately, here it is in real time. And there's Andrich. He's in the middle, 3 wide. A lot of net code between Andrich and Will Stearns, and they both go hard into the wall. And that's going to be meatballs and day done for both Blaze Andrich and Will Stearns. Meanwhile, here's the front of the field, and we'll reset it for you. Jason Brophy is your leader. Hamilton Akabuezi is second. Seb Alexander third. The old pro, Alexander Russell, is fourth. Alan Berteau will round out your top five. Then it's Oster, Craig, Edwards, Simpson, and Matt Hollybaugh. That's 6 through 10, and everybody is coming to pit road, Jacob. Now, is this something that you would expect based on the fuel windows?
I'd imagine so. I'd say that they're maybe going to try to make this a two or three stop race here. You know, we'll pit on around lap 19 or 20 here, maybe pit on 40, and then 60 and go to the end. Maybe it's a bit of a wider window than that, but I would imagine about 20 some odd laps is about what you're going to get on fuel here. You know, we may see a couple guys try to stretch the later fuel windows to maybe get an overcut, but I think with as late into the fuel run it is, everybody's got to come down.
Yes, they are. And pit road here is just as wild as the front straightaway is. Look at how wide that is. Cars 3-4 wide coming off of the pit lane. Jason Brophy, he's going to lead them out. Everybody stopped. Everybody stopped here with working lap 19 of 80. And I do need to say, Collins, it's one of those situations where this just about makes it a perfect 2 stints to the end, does it not?
Yeah, you'd have to imagine that if they were able to get to 19 the way they were driving, they could probably have gotten to 20, 21. So then it's, you know, chuck in another couple stints after that and you make your way home. But it's also one of those things that, you know, depending on how the yellows fall, that may also change how people try to stretch that fuel number back and forth. You know, if we get a later or earlier yellow into that fuel window, it may result in some guys trying to roll the dice, stretch the fuel, see what happens. But we'll just have to see if any of that comes to fruition or not.
And we do have Anna Klimek in the chat from the Taylor Mills Racing Group. Anna wants to know, can you one stop it from here? The answer is maybe. Just maybe. Anywhere between, it's just kind of like Indianapolis, so anywhere between 27 and 32 is possible.
Yeah, we've seen as many as 35, but that's extreme scenario, right? Where we maybe get a yellow in there at some point too.
Now, I'll tell you this, I can give you an idea of who's going to be the guy that makes the 35 laps if it's possible. And that's this man right here, Robert Malechka III. He is noted for his fuel economy runs in these races, especially here at Pocono. And there's Rob. So we'll keep an eye on him. To answer the question, no, Marco has not been involved in any accidents. He currently runs along in 13, just right at P13, right ahead of Rob. And there's Marco Brazil in the number 10. He has Robin Glakis in the number 19 machine just in front of him. And good to see Rob. Good to see Rob in the field this evening. We've got Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes, the last car in the field, number 24. Kevin, if you were wanting to know, if you guys in the audience were wanting to know what the minimum I rating was to get into this race, 32.19 would have been the price of poker this evening, and that's a pretty stout field. There's Kevin Hayes. Look at Matt Hollybaugh. He had a ton of fun. Matt Hollybaugh did at the P1 600 earlier. But there he is, run along in 10th. Logan Edwards. The old Narc Brain is 9th. There's Chad Simpson in front of him in the number 42 numeraled machine, Satellite. Rashad Craig in the IR entry just in front of him. And then Jacob Oster, the winner of the P1 600. We know he can get it done on the ovals. He's following Alan Berteau, and that's a new livery for Alan as we get ready to go back green.
Green, green, green.
Now watch everybody spread out here going down the main straightaway, guys. They didn't do it this time, Collins. They made a liar out of me, my friend.
No, it appears that everybody wanted to try to stay in the tow as long as they possibly could heading down to that first turn, maximize that entry speed. Because as we saw, there's a couple cars that did try to dive out of line that are going to roll back just a couple spots here. So it seems like that the early gamble of fan 5 wide was not in the cards this time around.
We do try to have interactive commentary, DJ Moab. And so that's one of our hallmarks here at the P1 Broadcasting Network. Do want to thank everybody for tuning in and sticking out through our technical difficulties at the beginning of the race. We're here. We're live. It's lap 21, coming to get 22 at Pocono. Hamilton Akabuezi leads it, but here comes old teammate Seb Alexander. Seb's going to fire it up the inside and go for the lead. Now, Collins, is this one of those situations where nobody wants to lead? Everybody wants to save as much fuel as possible?
Well, I'd imagine that people aren't going to protest it, right? It's one of those things where it's like, well, if I'm the leader, I'll hold the lead. But if somebody else is wanting to take it, let them have it. I don't think you'll be seeing a ton of guys being super, super eager to stay in that lead position if they have the option not to. But unfortunately, as things go in the opposite direction, if somebody has to finish last, somebody has to lead the race as well. So we'll just have to see if Seb opts to stay up here or if he tries to hand it back to one of the cars chasing him down.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, where the leader can kind of dictate the pace. You saw Jason Brophy. He moved from that lead and did not contest either Hamilton Akabuezi or Seb Alexander. Moving past him, there you see Brophy firmly ensconced in fourth behind Alexander Russell, and he's got a rearview mirror full of Jacob Oster. But one of those situations where, you know, you see Brophy not wanting to lead it, but this to me is almost just as dangerous as a race where people are 2 and 3 wide. You've got the pace has slowed way up. Seb's last lap 41.845. That's about half a second off what these cars are capable of. And to be truthful, Jacob, you know, it's very difficult to run in a pack like this, almost riding the brakes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it'd almost be easier to have everybody running full rip trying to maximize their speed, right? But as you see, the cars kind of bunch up as we come through the tunnel turn here. It's very difficult, especially in cars that are impacted by the air as much as these, to stay in a very tight group like this, because everybody's trying to like get that little bit of inch of wing out from beside each other, and the less track you have left to right, the harder and harder that gets. Especially as you narrow that up into that second corner, as we saw earlier in the crash. It's just so hard to keep all those cars side by side.
You know, it most certainly is, and do want to point that out. Could tire wear become a factor? Fuel, obviously, we're thinking about as we catch the speed shot, and what great shots brought to us by Whiplash Sim Cams here. If you need cameras, you're an iRacing photographer, broadcaster, go ahead and hit up Whiplash Sim Cams. The camera work is absolutely fabulous, and none of that is due to anything on my part. So blame Whiplash Sim Cams for these amazing shots. Could it be that somebody like Seb Alexander is maybe thinking, I can make it if I run fuel 4 or 5, but the tires go away? DJ had pointed that out too. If you're 4 or 5 cars back, is this a situation where the tires are going to wear out, Jacob?
Well, I think it entirely depends on how you approach it too, right? If you try to approach running in traffic the way you would if you are the leader and you think that you can put it full rip every corner no matter what, then probably you're going to have a lot of cars that maybe try that, fall back a couple spots, maybe have to regain some ground through a pit cycle. But I think if you account for your car being 3, 4, 5 cars deep in a wave of dirty air, that you can mitigate that just a little bit so it's not quite as big of an issue. Obviously, the lead car is going to have the easiest time with tires, but I think even that lead car still needs to keep in mind just what they're doing throughout the corners in terms of that tire management.
And look at the front 4 fan out. Every one of those cars, Alexander on the bottom, Hamilton Akabuezi just about half a lane up, then a half a lane up from him, Alexander Russell, and then a half a lane up from him at the top. That's Jason Brophy. The front 3 now have pulled a little bit of distance. The battling really begins right here. That's Alan Bruteau. He is working in that Fiercely Ford machine on the satellite racing entry of Chad Simpson. Let's get you an idea of what this looks like from Alan Bruteau's machine going down this long front straightaway. It is the longest straightaway in IndyCar, if I'm not mistaken. 232 miles an hour until you lift going into turn 1.
I'm no trigonometric expert, but I would believe this would have to be longer than the turns at the straights at Indianapolis. But we'll have to bust out the yardstick on that one and see if we can figure that out.
It is a bit longer than the front straightaway at Indianapolis. Of course, Pocono itself is an amalgamation of 3 different tracks. So as we ride with Alain Berteau, the first corner is the most steeply banked. It was modeled after turns 1 and 2 at Trenton. Very steeply banked, very wide corner. You come down the Long Pond straightaway here as you see Berteau look to the inside of Chad Simpson one more time. You're going to come to the tunnel turn. This is probably the most famous turn at Pocono. 8 degrees of banking. It is a replica of a turn at Indianapolis. And then you get down to turn number 3, which is extremely wide. It is nearly flat, and it is a replica of a corner at Milwaukee. And so that's what a lap of Pocono looks like here. As you see, Alain Berteau finally working his, he was attempting to pass Chad Simpson. He's now fallen into the clutches of Rashad Craig. Meanwhile, and that's about the best battle on the track. If we go back further, you can see Marco Brazil. He's getting kind of racy with Matt Hollybaugh there. But everybody else is more or less content just to stay in line, Jacob.
Yeah, you got to imagine a lot of these guys are thinking long-term, fuel number, trying to hang out as long as they can, save as much as they can. Maybe get their stop in later than everybody else, try that overcut, be able to not have to come in quite as early come the end of the race. But that's also a gamble in its own right? A lot can happen in an entire fuel stint, especially the longer you try to make that stint go, and that can just as easily bite you as pushing it as hard as you can. So it's that risk reward that we love to see in these oval races, especially where you can kind of make some risks with the strategy, try to make up the ground the easy way, if you will, in the brain department rather than the brawn department. And we'll just have to see who rolls that dice the earliest.
Yes, indeed. We're watching the front of the field. Not much action until you get back around Logan Edwards and Robin Glakis. The Narc Brain and Uncle Rob, they're having a battle here. That's a dispute over 13th position. Robin Glakis is going to go past Logan Edwards, who is going to fall into the clutches of Robert Malechka. Interesting to note, Malechka, Clinworth, Ty Keela, they have not made any effort to move forward. There's Clindy. He's following right along in the slipstream of Jeremy Miguel. That smells to me like some guys that are saving some gas, Jacob.
Well, it could be that, or it could be that they know that this race isn't a 10 or 20 lap sprinter. It's an 80 lap marathon, if you will. That they're trying to put their cars out of trouble, away from cars that maybe are dicing back and forth a lot closer together. So that's a decision in its own right. It's possible that they've made attempts and thought, I think I could bide my time, or I know where my car is strongest, and they can work their way through the field later on. But we'll just have to see what happens.
That's a great point. Do want to address the question from DJ Mohab. The new model has the hybrid indicators, but the hybrid is not functional. That is correct. So if we jump on board with Marco Brazil, you can see we're going to need a little bit more from Marco. Come on, help us out. Where's the cockpit? There we go. You can see on the steering wheel the region position on the steering wheel. That would be the indicator for the hybrid. Now, just to let everybody know, the hybrid is not active in these cars. It does not work. However, DJ, the weight of the hybrid is included in the automobile, and that's something that every one of these drivers and their respective teams has been fighting since the update. Marco Brazil, huge run down the front. He's going to throw it to the inside of Matt Hollybaugh going toward turn 1. Is it going to be position done for Marco? No, he does not quite get enough to make the slide job on Matt Hollybaugh. So Hollybaugh will hold on to 9th, and that's put Marco Brazil directly in the crosshairs of Chris Nienow. Nienow is going to go to the inside through the tunnel turn, but does not have enough to clear Marco, and it's going to be advantage Marco Brazil as they head toward turn 3. Well, maybe not. Ninao does have enough to clear him, so Ninao moved Ninao to 10th. Brazil back to 11th. He's going to try to fight back on the bottom, but no draft down there, and that's kind of fool's gold going down the inside down turn number 1, isn't it, Jacob?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you think that, oh, it's a slightly smaller radius. You know, you've got cars maybe occupying the top. You can get out of their dirty air, shoot at the bottom, but it kind of slides you around a lot more, makes it a lot harder to get exit speed, which is so crucial as you head down that long second straightaway at this 2.5 mile triangle. You know, it can send you backwards just as easily as you thought it would send you forward.
You know, it most certainly can, and I call it fool's gold because you see the train of cars here at the very top of the speedway. We'll get up in the blimp, in that way the fans at home can kind of notice. If you see these cars go down the straightaway, it's just one giant conga line here. Everybody in line, and when you pull down there, you may get a huge run coming off of turn 3, but if you get out of that draft, it's like running into a brick wall. There's no way to move forward, and you'll see Marco Brazil here. He may get a run on Chris Ninao, but he's not going to be able to go anywhere with it. So see, here he goes. He's going to get up top. He's not going to quite get there. He's going to have a huge head of steam, but there's nowhere to really go with it.
No, and that's part of the struggle of being not close enough or too close, right? You know, you can kind of gauge where that car in front of you is going to go and maybe get a run on them in an alternative line, but at the same time, that car that maybe took the alternative line in front of you is just as cognizant that you know that. So it's that cat and mouse trying to pick where to put your car to do not only what's best for your car, but maybe what's worse for the cars behind you.
Very true. Did have a question about the driver in the number 24 machine. That is Kevin Hayes. He started 14th. He's fallen back now to 16th. He's been as high as 9th. And so there is the runner in the 16th spot. That's Kevin Hayes. He's sandwiched between Kyle Clinworth in 15th and Jeremy Miguel in 17th. And speaking of Clindy, Ty Keela, Robert Malechka, that crew has all started to move forward. Meanwhile, as is fairly normal, once the run has gone on and we are 20 laps into the current stint, the tires on that number 10 machine of Marco Brazil have started to fade away.
Yeah, that's something we kind of have seen Marco struggle with a couple times at these big ovals. Is, you know, he's got a car that's really fast if he can get it up to the front of the field, but maybe struggles as you start to put him behind other cars, and it's possible that, you know, all the attempts he's made at passes on Hollabaugh and Ninao and others have worn his tires out a bit, and he's gonna have to pay a bit of a price for all that wear.
You know, he most certainly is, and that Marco Brazil car is noted in the community for being an absolute rocket when it comes to these big ovals and being by himself. But it's also noted that if you get on a long green flag run, Marco is not going to be very happy with the car by the end of it. Jacob Oster wiggling back and forth in between Jason Brophy and Hamilton Akabuezi while we were talking about the action further in the deeper in the field. Seb Alexander and Alexander Russell, so a pair of Alexanders, last name then first name. They run 1 and 2. Alexander Russell got past Brophy, Oster, and Akabuezi, is in second, and those two have begun to distance themselves just a bit. And I mean just a bit. It's nothing that they can't close up in the draft if they don't want to. And there you see Brophy. He heard me say that they've begun to distance themselves, and he immediately begins to reel Alexander Russell back in. But the pace remains very soft to the front. 41.9 from Alexander, 41.9 for Russell, 42 even for Brophy, Oster, and on down the line. We know that these cars are capable of about 0.7 seconds quicker than that. One of the things that we have not seen, though, Mr. Collins, is any sort of cooperation between the two Alexanders. We haven't seen them swap drafting.
No, and it's possible that Russell is kind of aware of the situation in which he finds himself, right? He's the last car behind, the first car behind another car, which allows him to save more fuel, lift a bit more. As we see Oster way out to the high side in 3 and 4, shoot around Jason Brophy. Gets a huge run down the front stretch. Does he try to take it on Russell? It does not appear he will. But Russell's in that unique situation of being that first car that has a car in front of him and can use that to his advantage to maybe hit a slightly higher fuel number than Alexander or Seb Alexander in front of him can.
That's 100% true. And the other thing is, you're seeing a lot of jockeying, but nobody's really trying to get past Seb Alexander. Everybody wants to get to the head of that train, but they don't want to lead it. It's one of those weird races where nobody wants to lead at this point because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage in fuel way high for Jacob Oster, being covered off there by Jason Brophy, and a bemused Hamilton Akabwezi looks on. On board now with Hamilton Akabwezi.
Yeah, and you've got to wonder how much of this is also Hamilton biding his time and seeing how these guys are going to try to maybe make passes later in the race, right? Is you've got guys that are maybe committing to certain lanes because that's where they feel their car sticks the best, not only for the accounting for the dirty air in front of them, but maybe their setup sits at a different spot than each other as they kind of travel through the corner. So it's taking just as much account of is what's going to happen now as what's going to happen maybe coming to the end of this race.
Whoa, Hamilton Akabwezi just brushes the wall coming off of turn number 3. I was just about to say, watch how he shoots the gap between the two lines in the corners. There he goes. He's going to do it again. See how he enters the corner and he's got dirty air and then he just turns it down to the apex once the car settles down? That's just exactly what you want to do following behind guys like Jacob Oster and Jason Brophy, the two cars immediately to the front of him. He does it again there. He just kind of offsets it a little bit. And watch turn 3. He's going to try to shoot the gap between the two. See that little sliver of air right there, fans? That's what he's driving at. Hamilton Akabwezi, one of the best in the business, and he's looking at 5th place right now, and maybe more later on. Do want to give a call down to Rashad Craig. He's moved it past Alan Berteau, past Matt Hollybaugh. Rashad Craig now is in 7th, and he's looking for more on Chad Simpson in 6th.
And Rashad is definitely one of those guys who will bide his time and work his way patiently through this field as the runs progress.
There is no man more patient than Rashad Craig on an oval when he's got a fast car. Sometimes it can be to his detriment. Rashad Craig, of course, a teammate of mine at Indy Alliance Racing, but he's a very laconic, very level-headed, very smart, long-distance driver, and certainly a couple hundred miles here at Pocono requires you to be all of those things. Rashad Craig has taken stock of the machinery that he has at his disposal, and he's just very quietly working his way into the picture, and that's what you want to do here, Collins. Meanwhile, Brophy and Oster, I don't know that those two could get any closer there.
No, not without touching and potentially causing some catastrophic IndyCar gymnastics would be the potential outcome of any closer than where they're getting to.
Well, and speaking of that, it's a good thing that we're at the updated scan of Pocono. If you were to come to Legacy Pocono, you would recognize that when they originally scanned this track, it did not have fencing all the way around. The corners had catch fencing, but if you went off on the Long Pond straightaway, if you locked wheels and got launched, the barrier was the forest.
Yes, the fence posts were quite literally trees at that point.
Indeed, that's one of the reasons that IndyCar left the Pocono Speedway in the early 1990s, 1989 being the last race here for the kart series, with safety concerns. The track was very bumpy. It had not been repaved. Wasn't repaved from its opening in the 1960s all the way up until 2014, when they resurfaced it, added the catch fencing, added the safer barriers. You'll notice this track is one of the only ones that it has safer barriers all the way around, inside and out. Seb Alexander has come to the pit lane, and we've got trouble in the back. Trouble in the back. That's a car around. That's Robert Malechka III. He spins toward the inside of the pit lane. Drama for one of the contenders. Robert Malechka around, entering pit lane on lap 49 of 80. And let's see what we've got going on here, Collins. You've got Malechka coming down the back straight. He is in the number one machine as the highest I rating in the field, 79.73. And he's got a meatball, as does Marco Brazil.
Coming off turn 3, it looks like he maybe gets into the back of Marco, would be my observation, but we'll have to see as we come back around here.
Yeah, that's what I've got too. We're going to get on the roll bar for Rob, but just to confirm it, it appeared as though the number 10 of Marco Brazil started to slide outwards at the exit of the corner. Maybe not enough grip on the Chevrolet for Marco Brazil. He's going to slide up in front of Rob, and I don't know that Robert Malechka III had enough time to avoid it. And there you go. And he was off the gas, Collins. He was trying to get off of him, just couldn't make it happen. He slides backwards down the pit lane, and the good thing for us is that does not result in a yellow light.
No, we remain green, and I believe it will be Jason Brophy now in the lead of this field as he takes it away from Alexander Russell. And you've got to wonder just how long are these guys going to stay out here. It's possible that given how long they've gone, they can make another stint similar to this one and go to the end, because we've been about 30 some odd laps, 31, 32 maybe under green here.
Working lap 33 now. If it was me, and of course it ain't me, but I would want to make it to 35 to go would be my number, or 25 to go would be my number, because that is absolutely flat out full rich, put the hammer down the whole way home. The alternate of this is this group right here. Now, they are not quite clear. Well, they are clear of the draft of Jason Brophy, Alexander Russell, and so on. But look at the difference in the racing. Seb Alexander, Kyle Clinworth, Ty Keela. Those three cars are working together in concert to go as absolutely quickly as possible. They want to set the hot laps and get out and away from the other automobiles here. As you see Ty, he drops down to the inside and around the car of Chris Nenow, but Nenow is going to catch on to the end of this group. But they've been working together, and they're trying to go faster than Brophy in the lead. The problem with that is they're actually losing a little bit of time, 0.6. They're gaining a little bit of time. Clinworth, that last time, 41.1. He's leading that train, 41.4 for Brophy. So they're pulling away just a little bit here. Brophy peels it into pit lane.
Looks like he takes Alan Berteau with him as well.
He does indeed. Jason Brophy fans will be happy to note that he did not speed on entry into the pit lane, and so Jason Brophy clean on the entry. Stand by and we'll let you know where he is coming out. Hamilton Akabuezi is just outside that draft envelope of the cars in front of him. Is he not there, Collins?
It would appear that's about how far out he is. You know, maybe looks can be a little bit deceiving. He's a bit further out than we think he is, but I'd want to say he's just outside that window.
He's coming to pit lane, and that's what it looks like to try to make a pit stop here at Pocono. That's going to hand the lead over to Jacob Oster. Oster now has Chad Simpson, Rashad Craig in tow. That is the lapped machine of Jason Collins, who is in between there. Also, you may see Jeremy Miguel in there. So Oster has begun to pull away from Simpson and Craig. Akabuezi remains third as he stops, but here comes Oster. He's going to dive to pit lane. Same for Chad Simpson. There he is. Same for Rashad Craig.
Yeah, and you've got to imagine these are the guys that are going to try to come in, full tank it, and rip it and ship it, full push all the way to the end here as we kind of approach that 25-lap window.
Yes, indeed. That theoretically would hand the lead over to Hamilton Akabuezi. There's Hamilton. He has just about a half a second lead over Jason Brophy and Alexander Russell. They're in provisionally P5 and 6, although that may change here with the pit stops. Speaking of pit stops, here comes Oster. Here comes Simpson. Here comes Craig. There comes the train behind him. They are going to get out on the track first, but are they going to be able to hold it? Oster has the lead, but Hamilton Akabuezi and Jason Brophy are coming, and they're coming with a head of steam, and they've got Alexander Russell right with them. Here they come to the inside. Here they come to the outside. We're 3 wide, headed for the tunnel turn. No lift. Alexander Russell thought about making it 4 wide. Hamilton Akabuezi is going to emerge from turn 3, the leader. So these 4, and they've got Chad Simpson in the draft envelope. So we're going to have a 5-car battle. Matt Hollybaugh is 1.6 behind Simpson. So that's going to be a bit of an ask, isn't it, Jacob?
I'd imagine it's going to be a bit of an ask, especially as these guys are properly pushing it now. It's going to be harder to maybe make up time with any sort of swap draft situation, as these guys are just as likely to perform something similar, and that time might just get even negated or canceled out. So the pit lanes seem to be where all the time was going to be made up, and now it's just who's going to be in the fight for it for the end.
You know, the other part of that we may not be looking at, and we may not be considering, Akabuezi, Brophy, Russell, Oster, Simpson, they went the longest. Matt Hollybaugh, the gentleman trying to chase them down, and there is Matt Hollybaugh, and there's the interval, maybe not that one. How about that one? There's the interval to the leaders from Hollybaugh, and that's a fast hot rod, the number 6. He's got it down to 1.1 seconds. The problem for Hollybaugh and the group he's hauling is they were the first to stop. So Ty Keela, Kyle Clinworth, Seb Alexander, Robin Glakis, those guys need to save some gas.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, right? Is they pit a lot earlier, so they have to make that fuel last until the end of the race, which is going to be harder for them to do than these cars up front that pit later, as we've kind of determined that these guys are basically able to push as hard as they want to, maybe not as they will, given they're kind of packed up the first 5 cars at the front here. But we'll just have to see if there's any sort of situation that we find ourselves in, maybe a late yellow or, some sort of slip up from the first couple of cars that gets that back half of the top 10 back into it.
You're quite right. The other bit of that, Anna Klimek had pointed out, there's, 2 groups. Yes, there were 2 groups, but that is quickly going to become one very big one. That's Rashad Craig as the caboose. Matt Hollybaugh has now joined the fray at the front. Lap 61 of 80. Make it 20 laps to go here at Pocono. And the top 10 are all in this fight now. You see the battle a little bit further back. That's Kyle Clinworth going to the outside of Alan Bretreau. There's Clindy toward the outside of one of the newer Fiercely Ford machines. He'll make that pass. Rashad Craig in the Indy Alliance entry. He is 10th. Worth noting that Seb Alexander, who was our early pace setter, he was the first to stop. He's been out for 12 laps. Seb is not, he's not really going away, but he's not catching this group either.
And I'm imagining that has to come with his potential fuel save situation, that he's got to basically be feather footing around this 2.5 mile facility.
Yes, he is.
Make it to the end.
Yes, he is. Anna Klimek expecting a late caution. I would expect that as well. They've played nice up to this point. We're getting down to the part of the race though where nice goes out the window, and guys are not going to play nice for much longer.
Well, I imagine we've probably got at least another couple laps before we start really throwing elbows, because this is a very large track. After all, there's a lot of time left to play with here. You know, we've got another over 15 laps or so to settle this one out.
As you say that, they're going 3 wide for the lead. Jacob Oster thought about making it 4 wide. That's going to give the inside to Chad Simpson. He's going to fire it through and try to get a spot off of Oster, who's looking to make it 3 wide on the top again, make it 4 wide. Here comes Chad Simpson on the bottom for the lead. Simpson on the bottom, and now they've got Logan Edwards. Edwards is 20th. He is on the leader lap, so he can fight for it. But that is going to have an influence on these front-running cars just by where he chooses to run as Jason Brophy goes back to the lead.
Yeah, it really depends on where they catch him too, right? If they've got space to maybe try to form some sort of draft around him, then they're probably going to take as much advantage of that situation as possible. This front straightaway is very long. It's got about 4 or 5 usable lanes to kind of negotiate with there. So it's just a matter of kind of where they catch him and where they can make that move, as we see a very, very precarious situation for Akabwezi on Brophy there into turn number 1.
Speaking of precarious, here comes Matt Hollybaugh. He's going to fire it down the inside just like Chad Simpson, his teammate on the satellite squad, did a couple of laps before. He draws it even with Brophy. Now he's going to look at Hamilton Akabwezi. Alexander Russell leads it, and Russell is getting some help from Logan Edwards up there. The lap car is most assuredly towing along, and we've got caution. Caution is on the speedway. Matt Hollybaugh has stopped, and that is, oh no, another very similar incident. It collects Taikila, a very similar incident to what we saw with Robert Malechka and Marco Brazil. Watch here. Let's get on board Chad Simpson. Watch here, fans. Hollybaugh gets down on the bottom. He starts to lose grip, and just no way for Chad Simpson to avoid him. And I think Simpson actually did avoid him. Just a matter of some bad net code there. Taikila also involved. Tough break for Ty. Mind you, this is half speed. And he just gets caught up in it. Now, what does this do for the fuel situation for everybody involved, Jacob?
Well, I think at this point you're kind of in your bed and you lie in it, unless you're kind of towards the back of the field. Maybe you throw some fresh tires at it, put some fuel in it. If you were maybe a bit short, trying to make it easier on yourself to the end. But I'd imagine other than that, we're going to see a lot of guys stay out here, kind of just hit their marks, hit their number, and go from there, unless they really feel like the tire situation is what's going to win them out this race.
Well, here they come. Alexander Russell is a lonely guy on the speedway. Kyle Clinworth is going to join him. Robert Malechka is a lap down, as is, well, no, there's Guillermo Miguel. He stayed out. Hamilton Akabwezi, P4, he's going to come in for service, and everybody comes behind him. So there
I
they
am suspecting it's tires. Did anybody go up, I guess, is the question.
Did anybody, I'm sorry?
Did anybody go up on the jacks for tires?
Everybody took tires. Chad Simpson also took himself a new front wing. So that's where we're at on this deal. Everybody took tires. I'm suspecting some of them, for example, Seb Alexander, may have taken a splash of fuel as we get down to the final 12 laps to decide it, Jacob. Alexander Russell, the pro, is your leader. Kyle Clinworth second, Guillermo Miguel third, Hamilton Akabwezi fourth. Akabwezi is the first car that has stopped. Robert Malechka is third in line. Malechka, though, 5 laps down, currently scored in 21st. And if I know Rob, and we all know him pretty well, he's probably going to pull that baby down pit road and get out of the way here very shortly.
Yeah, no sense in trying to muck the run up at the front multiple laps down at this stage in the race either. You know, if he was maybe 1 or 2 down and there was going to be a couple quick yellows and he could fight for it, then maybe it makes a bit more sense, but there's just too many laps for him to overcome to make anything up here.
Yeah, and there he comes. He's going down pit lane. Now, the reason Malechka would stay on the racing surface here, Tykula has disconnected. Matt Hollybaugh is on pit road with a meatball. Those are 2 cars that Rob... I'm sorry? Who do we have in the broadcast booth? Why, that's none other than Matt Hollybaugh. Matt, how's what was it? Just a situation where you got the air cut off, lost all the momentum, and
yeah, I was tracking out for exit, and I just lost track of where Oster was, and then I got the car outside call. I'm like, oh no! So I hit the brakes, and then I just got run over. It's just kind of this crappy, like, yeah, I ran out of talent. Just all there is to it.
I mean, it happens to the best of them. It happened to Marco Brazil and Robert Malechka earlier in this race. Would you? You've got a split strategy here. You got Russell Clinworth, and Miguel on old tires. They could make it on gas. You've got everybody else on freshies. What are you thinking for the end of this thing?
So I will say, with this yellow and everyone kind of overcutting halfway from the last yellow, I don't think like pitting for tires is going to be that big of a benefit. But at the same time, it's also like it's going to get packy at the end here. It's gonna get pretty crazy. It's not difficult to overtake here, especially on restarts. Once it gets strung out, that's when it gets difficult. But I don't think it's going to have time to get strung out here. So it really could be anyone's race.
Cool deal. Do you want to go back with the team? Do you want to hang out in the booth? It's up to you, my man.
Nah, I'm cool here.
All right. Well, we're going to be joined by Matt Hollybaugh.
Hi. Sorry for just kind of saying hi like that. I just heard my name and figured that's a good segue.
No worries. No worries. Always glad to have a competitor in the booth with us, although we would most assuredly prefer you to be out on the racetrack. We're going to come back, get the green. It's Alexander Russell, your leader. He, Clinworth, and Guillermo Miguel do not have the benefit of new tires. Everybody else behind him does. Here we go. Green flag is out from Barney. 13, now 12 laps to go here at Pocono to decide it. A 200-miler in the Indy Open Series top split action Monday night here on the P1 Broadcasting Network. Massive crowd here to watch you guys tonight, Matt. And so do want to thank everybody in attendance. If you haven't done it, make sure you smash the like button on the video. Ring the bell to subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified of all future iRacing events.
Well, Kyle has wasted no time getting to the front.
No, he hasn't. He's gone by Alexander Russell. Clindy has the bit between his teeth. Russell now, he's going to come back on the inside. If you were Clindy and you were Russell, they might not have a choice. Here comes Hamilton Akabuezi. He's going to go to the inside. Now, what would you rather be here? You've been in this race. Would you rather be second, third, leading? Kind of where would you want to position yourself here, Matt, toward the end of this race?
Honestly, like with how wide turn 3 is, I genuinely have no idea. Like, Oster was just ripping the fence in 3, like he's doing now, but he's got some dirty in front. He's still up there though.
We've never seen Jacob Oster do that before, ever, anywhere. Ride the fence.
Yeah, it caught me off guard.
I think at Michigan one time I was running what I thought was the high side. He had no more than a sheet of paper between the fence and between my car underneath him, and somehow made it through it. He is an ardent supporter of the high side. We're going to go 4 wide to the tunnel.
Brophy wisely lifted out of it.
Well, but now he's going to find himself 3 wide with Oster and Clindy. He's got to back out of it again. 2x2 we go. Just like Noah's INDYCAR arc into 3 and 4. Clindy up to the high side. He's got Oster on the bottom. Now, Russell, Akabuezi, and Oster get lined up on the bottom. Clindy stays to the outside. I don't know that I'd want to be leading, but I don't know that I want to be anywhere outside of that top 3 or 4 for certain, Matt. And no slouch of a driver either. Where would you want to be, Jacob Collins?
Well, I think I want to be the car that doesn't touch another car coming through that last set of turns. I think it's gonna come down to who gets lucky and isn't in the wad of carbon fiber and tire tethers flopping around all over the place. But we'll just have to see as we've got another 7 or 8 laps to go here.
It does tend to wind up like that here, doesn't it, Matt? Where cars tend to be inverted as they cross the finish line. Caution on the speedway. It's Ohei.
We are going to get a quick little, 3 or 4 lap shootout to end this thing, ain't we?
We're going to have a trophy dash. Robert Malechka also involved. I think that was I think that might have been a mercy ending of himself. What have we got, though? Olivia Hayward there in the TMR entry. She's following behind Robin Glakis. That's Uncle Rob. They've got Seb Alexander in front.
Yeah, the hole she was going for looks like it just closed up, as she was going for it, and
yeah,
that's all she wrote.
She was there, and I think Rob might have thought he had more room than he did, and Ohei goes for a ride. Did not get it upside down and stayed in the ballpark. And then we'll see what Rob Malechka has to show us from his onboard. He's going to have a pretty good view of this. He's going by Logan Edwards there. Watch the cars in front become tangled. There they go. There's the smoke.
He did like what he did at Gateway. He just lost it. Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, so, a lot of people maybe that join us here, Matt, Jacob, that join us on a weekly basis but don't necessarily race the car or just race fans in general and maybe have never been in iRacing, these cars do not like to change direction abruptly.
They especially don't like to turn right, especially when they're set up to go as left as fast as possible.
Yeah,
Turning right can just unsettle the heck out of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, but, especially if you're in a turn or, especially if you're in a corner, trying to maneuver quickly, especially to the right, will just snap the car. Change center of pressure, change the aerodynamic profile, and you either get a ton of grip or no grip, and sometimes you get both of those things all at once, and you do what Rob Malechka just did. You loop the car. There's nothing else you can do. And so we're going to see Robin Glakis come to pit lane, Malechka come to pit lane. Ohei is going to stay out. I think Ohei's got the meatball, and so she's going to stay out and grab a position here. So what are they saying? You've still got the. You're still in the session, Matt. What are they saying in the car? In terms.
I have it muted for here.
No, but I mean, what are they saying in the car in terms of caution? We're going to get a 4-lap trophy dash?
So far, it does not say anything on my screen yet.
Okay, let us know if it gives you 2 to go.
All right.
That's okay. Let us know if you get 2 to go. I would assume we're going to have 4 laps, 10 miles. It'll be a qualifying run in Indianapolis to decide it. Jacob Oster, your leader. Hamilton Akabuezi second. Then it's Alexander Russell, Kyle Clinworth, Jason Brophy, the top 5. Rashad Craig, Alan Berteau, Guillermo Miguel, Seb Alexander, and Chad Simpson are the top 10. Jacob, it's not you, but there is a Collins in 11th. Chris Nenow is 12th. Tyler Dobush is 13th. Ella Spikes, Kevin Hayes round out the leader lap. Olivia Hayward is going to have to pull it off. She has the meatball, and eventually, Matt, she's going to have to respect that, pull it into pit lane. Robin Glakis has already pulled it off. Logan Edwards is still circulating. He will eventually pass Hayward and Glakis. Robert Malechka is on the pit lane under repair. Ty Keela, Matt Hollybaugh, Marco Brazil, Will Stearns, and Blaze Andrich all out of the race this evening as we get down to decide it. So I'll pose the question again, boys. Where do you want to be? You want to be leading? You want to be second, third, or fourth here?
I mean, if we're going to get let me see how many laps are left. We have 6 laps to go as of right now. So far, the only message I have in my screen is just too much damage. We're done, so that's not helping me.
Pace car is about
ready. How many laps there are. You said it's coming to green right now?
Lights just went out on the pace car, so they're going to come to get 4 to go in the green flag.
Okay, I'd like to try and maintain the lead as best I can, because the moment we get a yellow, the race is over.
Very good. What say you, Mr. Jacob Collins?
Well, I think I want to be the third car, and we're going to take it off of turn 2 going into 3, and then the field can wad it up. How about that?
I like it. I don't know that I don't know that I want to be leading, just because I'd rather have Akabwezi's hand than Oster's, and here's why. It is almost impossible here to defend the lead given the number of lines, especially through turn 3. If somebody gets a run,
Well, that being said, is Hamilton going to make the move, or is he going to want to try and hold back and slingshot? Like, he might have a blocker. Oster might have a blocker behind him.
You know, he might, but then, you know, we know that Akabwezi and Oster are probably communicating with each other. I think that's a fairly safe bet along with Jason Brophy. I'd say that's probably a safe thing to assume. We know that, Clindy and Rashad Craig, they're going to be working together. The wild card here is Alexander Russell, because he's not really affiliated with anybody, and he's got a rocket fast car, and that's a professional oval. That's a professional oval driver.
One does not simply acquire a black belt.
I mean, I'm looking at.
He had to work for that thing. I'm excited to see what we can do. What they're going to put out today.
I am too. I'm looking at
Maybe
Russell.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Russell kind of like I would look at Casey Kerwin when he drives this car. You don't see him very often, but when you do, the man is just brutally fast. Either way, here we come. Green flag is out. Barney's got it. We're going to get 4 laps to go. It's a qualifying run at Indianapolis to decide a 200-miler at Pocono, and the snake begins.
Brophy makes a move low. Clendy blocks it.
Yep, there we go. We're going to show it to you from the blimp, only because that's about the only way that we're going to be able to capture all of the action. There goes Akabwezi. Here comes Russell. We're going to go 3 wide toward the tunnel.
2x2 again, coming down to 3. Brophy's going to look. He's going to think about it. Backs out.
He's going to think about it, but he
does clean air.
He doesn't do it. Speaking of clean air, look at Jacob Oster rally in the cushion. He's going to swing it to the outside of Russell, but he doesn't have any draft. Now Akabwezi's going to move to pick him up. Akabwezi playing both sides of the street. Forget that. Here comes Kyle Clinworth. We're going 4 wide toward turn 1.
Clinworth's the lead, 3 wide behind him. Brophy 1 car behind that, and then we've got, I believe that's Brutteau and Rashad Craig. The next car's back there. They might have a shot in it depending on how racy he gets up here at the front.
They do indeed. Matt Taylor has informed us that Alexander Russell is a member of the Power Slide squad, so he would likely be in touch with Brophy and the rest of that gang. But Russell gets high. Rashad Craig and Alan Brutteau split him.
Russell has a damaged front wing.
Yes, he does. And we're going to get back and show the car of Alexander Russell. There it is. And he does not have a main plane on the left front wing. And there you see Alexander Russell is headed toward the back in a hurry.
That is too bad.
Like Hamilton maybe moved up a little bit, and Russell just had no left to kind of back out of it at that point, and loses that left front wing plane. So he'll fall back, unfortunately for him, because he was putting on quite a show.
Clendy's on the apron.
Well, they're going to let him back up. Akabwezi and Oster move to allow him back onto the racing surface. I think he might have got forced down there. Here comes the white flag. Barney has it in the air. 1 lap to go, boys. And we're going to go 4 wide for the lead at Pocono. 2.5 miles to go.
Well, it's time to see whose gamble, whose thoughts are going to pay off. Do you want to lead this thing going into turn 3, or do you want to be that 3rd or 4th car in line?
Look at who's made his way up to 5th. Jason Brophy is going to dive to the bottom, but look who's 5th, boys. Rashad Craig has made his way back up to 5th. He's on the outside looking at Brutteau, and we've got trouble. Oster around. Oster is upside down. We're going to continue to race toward the flag. It's Brophy leading from Akabwezi. Rashad Craig is 3rd as we turn for home now. Whew. Okay, so there you have it, boys. Jason Brophy is your winner. Rashad Craig is going to come home 2nd. Hamilton Akabwezi is going to be 3rd. And we're going to get back here and we're going to show some replays of this finish because I absolutely think it is 100% worth it. And we're going to start with Rashad Craig coming toward the backstretch, going down the Long Pond Straight. Look at this view, boys.
All right, I have to do some team debriefs. You guys take care.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. That's Matt Hollybaugh. Goodness gracious, we're gonna do one more. Let's ride on board with Clindy there, just so that we can kind of put a bow on this one. Here's Clinworth. We're gonna watch his entire last lap. Jason Brophy is your winner from Rashad Craig. Hamilton Akabwezi is going to be third. Clindy fourth. Seb Alexander rallies for fifth. And it's Alan Berteau, Chad Simpson, Jason Collins, Tyler Dobrush, and Guillermo Miguel. They're going to come home 6 through 10. Ellis Spikes, Chris Nenow, Kevin Harris, Alexander Russell, Jacob Oster, 10th through 15th. Then Logan Edwards, Olivia Hayward, Robin Glakus, Robert Malechka. This is the view from Clindy. And that's all it is. He got the wall, Jacob. That's how he wound up losing his momentum. Clindy does well to bring it home fourth. Whew. So what you're saying, Jacob, is you want to do that again?
Yeah. Craig almost had it. He would have been the fourth or fifth car in line coming off of 2. Got the run.
Yes, he did. So again, there's your top 10. Here is positions 11 through 20, and then rounding out the field, in-race reporter Matt Hollybaugh, Marco Brazil, Will Stearns, and Blaze Andrich. Do we have anybody in the Discord waiting? We do not as yet. If it's me and I'm them, I probably want to grab a drink, maybe a trip to the restroom, and really just a deep breath, Jacob.
Yeah, it was quite the couple closing laps there as we got that restart with about 5 or 6 to go, and everybody just decided that now was the time to throw hands for whatever they could, and boy howdy, did we get a good one.
Yeah, most certainly did. There's Rashad Craig. So while we await Jason Brophy, Hamilton Akabwezi, we'll go ahead and get Rashad Craig into the booth. Rashad, you've got Jacob Collins, Mark Murphy in the P1 broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
I hear you.
That was a wild ride, my man. We rode on board with you. You went from 6th to 2nd in the final, mile and a quarter, maybe? Kind of talk to us. Yeah, kind of talk to us about your day, how it went, and how you managed to get yourself. I kind of described your drive at one point as very Rashad-like. We didn't mention you very much until you were in the top 5, and once you were there, you didn't stay there. Or you stayed there.
Yeah, it's had a good set, and it was more just trying to figure out tools for most of the stints and stay with the pack, and kind of overfueled myself at the end. But it was more just trying to survive, keep the tires in a good place, and be in a position to make something happen, which a lot happened on the last couple laps.
Yes, indeed. Jacob, what have you got for our runner-up this evening?
Well, I had kind of made the call that I wanted to be the third or fourth car in line coming off turn 2 so I could get that massive run. You managed to get it. What was kind of your thinking point of where you decided to position your car coming through that last lap on the high side?
It was more a gamble because if anybody else went high, I would have been in not the best place. But it was a couple times on the last couple laps coming into three. Had some incidents. Luckily, did not get tagged or anything, but was hoping people would go low. Had that crash out of two. Somehow I made it through that and just held the high line, foot to the floor, checkers or records pretty much, and got P2.
Very good. Well, we thank you so much for joining us in the interview room tonight from the middle step of the podium. Rashad Craig, friends, family, sponsor, shout outs. The floor is yours, sir.
Thanks to the friends and family. Thanks for the team. Made a really good set this week. POCONO is normally a really bad one for me, but this had a really good car today, so I'm glad. And thanks you guys for broadcasting again.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, Rashad. Get out of here. Go celebrate with the guys.
Well, I'm going to bed.
Perfection. That's Rashad Craig. He'll finish second this evening. We're going to bring him up out of order, perhaps, but I'm sure a very pleased Hamilton Akabuezi. Nonetheless, Hamilton, you've got Mark and Jacob Collins in the booth. Tell us about your run. You never really were outside of that top three. What did you need when it came down to showtime to beat Brophy there?
I was just pretty tight. I mean, the racing at the end there is hard. It's crazy packy. Yeah, I don't know. I washed up into Jacob and like it just yanked him around. I guess Netcode did the rest of it, but yes, that sucked. But it sucked. Yeah, but it's just hard. Like what to do from the lead, what to do from anywhere here, like to know where to go. Yeah, just kind of wrong positioning for me. So towards the end there, but the rest of the race was kind of fun. Like the runs just seemed crazy big. Yeah, it was pretty fun racing.
Just as a follow-up to that, and something that I noticed in the Dark Horse race last night, have you noticed a difference in netcodes since the last update? I kind of felt like we were seeing some massive ones. Obviously, the situation with Jacob, we had a couple tonight. We're in closing rate situations where iRacing scored at a hit when it wasn't really a hit. Have you noticed a difference since the update, or too early to tell?
I think the netcode's the same. It's like if you get close to someone and there's any if there's gonna be any smidgen of like being really, really close to someone, even if it wasn't gonna hit, which I think I probably would have still bumped Jacob there, but it'll just make it worse, than what it probably would normally be. Yeah, there's always some really, really bad ones, but yeah, that one was kind of meh.
Gotcha. Jacob, what do you have for Hamilton Akabuezi this evening?
You guys had a pretty good fuel stretch in the middle portion of the race there. Did you feel like that was going to maybe position you, if that race stayed green, for you to be about that 5-car breakaway at the end of there and settle it amongst yourselves? Or was there kind of that lingering thought in the back of your head that the cars that pit maybe a bit earlier than you were going to be able to rile back into it come the end of it?
I mean, they were close. I think the end result would be somewhat similar, just less cars to make it chaotic. But I think if we get the green flag run there, we get a similar sort of finish towards the end anyways. But yeah, I just think it would have been more strung out further back and less, like some of these guys wouldn't have been as close. But it was still would have been packy.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Hamilton, for joining us. Always a pleasure to speak with you, my man. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs. You know the drill. The floor is yours.
I mean, shout out P1 Docs. Set I ran today is the same set I put up there. So, yeah, that was pretty good. Well, at least for race, it was the exact same. Yeah, I mean, shout out Alan running first O race on the team, technically. So, yeah, cool to have him on. Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for joining us. My man, get out of here. Go celebrate. Have some fun. That is Hamilton Akabuezi. He runs third this evening, and we'll get to the man of the hour. Once again, it is Jason Brophy at the top step of the podium on an Indy Oval, or on an Indy Open Monday night top split that takes place on an oval. Brophy, how wild was the end of that thing, and what did you see from your seat? How'd you manage to come out on top?
Well, I knew where I wanted to be on the last lap in practice, just before, like in the open practice, just before even a little testing to make sure we had the aero package right. Working with Rob and them, I kind of knew, we figured out the third place car off one was in the best spot. Didn't mean they were going to win, so I knew I wanted to be P3 and then take a huge run down through two. My hope was to get the run there a little later than I did. I got pretty early and to the inside of Hamilton and then Jacob. So that meant I was in the position I wanted. It's unfortunate what happened behind. Obviously, Hamilton and Jacob got together, and that caused them to wreck. And I think that pretty much sealed it for me because Hamilton lifted a little and I was able to hold it. But I knew where I wanted to be. I wanted to be P3 coming out of one. Just because it seemed the best odds at winning. Not 100%, but more often than not, you could get through two and hold the low line in three and then see what happened. And if the people behind got fighting, then and in this case they did. So it was wild racing though. Like, coming to that last restart, knew it was going to be insane. Some four wides that honestly I didn't really want to do, or moves didn't really want to do, but had to do. Thankfully, I didn't take anyone with me and managed to get myself in the right spot.
Collins?
Yeah, we saw a lot of four wide moments kind of those last couple laps. Is there anything you feel like that was able to be gained out of maybe doing some of that a bit earlier in the race or running near the front? We saw a lot of guys maybe try where they could set their cars up, where they were going to make passes. Do you feel like the when push came to shove, come to the end of it, some of those lessons learned earlier on in the race paid it off? Or was it just a completely different ball game once you had more fists to play with?
No, it's going to be a completely different ball game, right? If it's lap 20 and people are doing that, I'm going to bail out. There's no point doing that in lap 20, lap 50. It's going to come from past experience running these races, running the league races and past open races to know what you can do. And sadly, knowing this one, with the way the weather was set up, and granted a huge west wind, like 20 miles an hour plus, but knowing the way it was set up, it helped you in two so much, and a bit in three, especially the entry. You knew, like, as long as I got out of one in good spot, then I could basically attack the rest of the lap. And so, just knowing from past experience and a little bit of prep that, hey, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do, this is what I can do, and putting yourself in position. I'm not going to be able to do that from P5 in the last lap. If I'm starting P5 there, or if I'm starting that lap fifth, there's not really a way I'm going to gain two spots in 1 and 2 unless things go haywire. So I knew I need to be in position. That means the best spot to do that from is first. Like, get yourself in that top three so you can kind of try and be in the spot. And I got a big run off three, I want to say, and down the front stretch, and I knew I was going to be ahead as the front car with a clean air in the top lane in one, and that would put me in that spot. So a lot of it's just experience running these races in the past. That's what it comes down to. I've been under the weather the last few days, so this is a nice kind of, as I'm starting to come out of it, get back into things. Didn't necessarily expect to win, but good working with my teammate Alexander Russell for Power Slide, and put together a pretty good car. It's still hard to say, gets so packy at the end, but felt pretty good about it.
Well, whatever you guys had, it was definitely class of the field. Good to see Alex Russell here as well. Been a while, so I couldn't even remember what team he was on. So that tells you how long it's been. But thank you so much for joining us, Jason. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs. The floor is yours.
Well, Alex Cereson had the Power Slide. He joined us a couple weeks ago. So really, with the new season, there's been some shuffling around. I know amongst a lot of teams with the new build. We added Alex a couple weeks ago. I want to thank Power Slide as a whole, Team Hype, Tommy Milner, Ty Stover for giving me a shot. Rob didn't really get to make much of an effort, but he helped us today testing, and sadly he died. So
yes, he did.
But thanks for showing up and running.
Not only did he die, he died twice.
Yeah, true. I heard about the second one was him on the brakes or something. So, yeah. But no, and thanks to you guys for broadcasting. Appreciate it. So go back and get a watch of the crazy end, I'm sure. So
Yeah, you can fast forward through about the first 20, 25 minutes. I got hit with an iRacing update at 7:40. So
no, it is a big one. Yeah, there was a big update today. So,
and I've been working.
We even had the right cockpit for the car.
Yeah,
on the oval now. I mean, the names look worse, but we had the updated aero screen.
Yeah, we noticed that, and everything looks good. It's you can always tell the guys that pay attention to the updates and paints and stuff, because everybody's halo is now, everybody at the front of this deal, your halos were all perfect. I need to get in touch with my painter. I got in the car and jumped into it yesterday, just kind of messed around, and my halo is not painted anymore. So I got to get that figured out. But
well, that's just lucky for us because we haven't had an update to it. Yeah, must just be the way Cosman set it up, because I haven't done an update. We haven't done an update to our paint yet. So
there you go. But I noticed at Road America my halo was not painted anymore. So maybe we'll get that fixed. But thank you so much for your time, Brophy. Get out of here. Go celebrate. Keep going fast and having fun, buddy.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That is Jason Brophy. He's the winner, and I hate to say it, but with all the wildness, all the craziness, all the four wide, the back and forth, the absolute insanity. Well, Collins, the more things change, the more they kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, it kind of was an indicator early on when we noticed that the track temperature remained fairly low, that it was going to kind of turn into the four wide, no holds barred, try to make everything last at the end there. Which, love it or hate it, it is kind of what it is there. It's just unfortunate to see that a lot of great cars got taken out through the tumultuousness that is that style of racing. And hopefully the next time we come here, we won't have quite as big of a kerfuffle.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of kerfuffles, that's a good Midwestern word, by the way. We do want to thank everybody, and I do mean each and every one of you, because we had a lot of people watching here at the end. Still got a lot of people. Do want to thank everybody for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. I didn't get home from work until about 7:30 tonight. Logged in, had a 3 gig update, and it took a while. So thank you so much for everybody. Tomorrow, I'm sure that Gary Godso will not be on a delayed basis. He'll have the INDYCAR Oval Series Top Split presented by Techtopia. That'll be at 8:15. That'll be at 8:15 Eastern. On Wednesday, we're going to have the Horizon INDYCAR Series at Watkins Glen. That's the season opener. You can join Ryan Eric King and I at 8 o'clock. On Thursday, we're going to have the AMA Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series. They're going to be live from Lime Rock. Mark that at 8:20 pre-race, 8:35 start. No race on Friday. The Votive INDYCAR Oval Series will be the next INDYCAR race over the weekend. That's going to be at Legacy Atlanta. Join Gary Godso at 8 o'clock for that one. I want to make sure, don't want to shortchange anybody. I know that the AMA is off Friday. Is there an ISRA race this weekend? Or tonight?
No.
Collins?
No.
Gotcha. So the Sim Gaming Expo ISRA INDYCAR Series is off this evening, and that gives Gary Godso a well-deserved evening off. And speaking of Gary Godso, from Gary and all of our partners here at the P1 Broadcasting Networks, myself, Jacob Collins, and everyone at P1, we do want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. If you haven't already done it, make sure you hit like on the video, ring the bell to subscribe to the channel and be notified of all future P1 broadcasting efforts. We would also like to thank all of those who do the hard work at night so that we can lay our heads down on the pillow and sleep soundly. The military, the police, the firemen, the EMTs, the nurses in the emergency room. Thank you so much for all that you do. Collins, set down the roll aids. We get a week off. See everybody next week.